science is so young. It really was developed in the late 50s through the 1970s, and all these surgeons were all still operating. So I got to actually operate and work with Norman Shumway, who virtually invented heart transplantation. Choice rather than a disease process. Got to work with Dr. Albert Starr. I got to meet Denton Cooley, got to have Michael DeBakey in my operating room, which is a lot like having Charles Lindbergh sitting next to you if you're a pilot. You know, it was really a very exciting time to be training to be a heart surgeon, to be a heart surgeon. I'm really the first generation of people trained specifically to be heart surgeons. Everybody that trained me had initially trained to be general surgeons and lung surgeons, and they invented heart surgery and then passed that on to my generation. And of course, I have had the opportunity to train, you know, a generation of heart surgeons beyond that. And the most common thing that heart surgeons do, and the most common problem that people die from in this country, and it's literally just taking a pipe and going around a dam as far as getting blood where we need it. And that is the most common major surgery ever done in history. My first exposure to heart surgery was actually from the World Book Encyclopedia series. We used to get a yearly edition of that called the Science Year. You know, the great thing about this country is later in my life I was actually working with those same people that you know, were a little bit older than when I had seen their pictures, but they were still operating, and I got to train with Dr. Albert Starr, who did the very first valve implant. You'll often hear of a triple bypass, and that's because most people have blockages of all three vessels at the same time. But sometimes there's only one blockage, sometimes there's blockages of additional branches on the main vessels.
Tell the truth about the situation.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't really like to face the truth, and I actually run the risk sometimes of offending people. A lot of people feel that smoking is more of a right than a lifestyle choice rather than a disease process. 25% of the people in this country will die of this particular disease, by far the greatest single cause of death that we face. When I was growing up, very young in the 1960s, there were basically two incredible things going on in the world. One was the space program. Now it's hard to find heroes like that, you know. And one was heart surgery. Choice rather than a disease process. In the mid-1960s, Christian Bernard did the first heart transplant, and that was literally one of those days when the earth stood still. It was something that everybody was just in awe of, and very much the same awe we felt about every time they achieved something new in the space program. The most common disease process that heart surgeons take care of deals with hardening of the arteries, what we call atherosclerosis. And even though it's a total body phenomenon, of course what we're concerned about is the heart, and the most common cause of death and disability in our society is from atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, causing blockages of blood flow to the heart. You know, every single heart surgery is a really dramatic event. I said, well, how many heart transplants have you ever done? She said, well, how many times have you circled the earth?